Welcome back to Lamb's Cryptoverse. So today I'm working on one of two videos. I've got a deep dive video I recommend you all look at. It should be down there. And I'm also going to provide it in the links. But today I'm going to talk to you about trending innovations in the Solana blockchain project. But before I talk about that, I feel forced to talk about and recognize what's going on in the market. So as you know, the SEC is up to its 55th, I believe, lawsuit. And this is appearing to be the second part of Operation Choke Point 2.0. So as you know, they went after the banks. And now they're going after the exchanges. They sued Binance and Coinbase. So there's a fear, actually it's more than a fear, it's happening, that Solana will be delisted from exchanges. So because of that delisting potential, and it's already happening actually in Robinhood, because of that, the price of Solana has gone down from 25 to it's as low as $14 as we speak. And the $14 price would be up 40% from the low of $10 that was hit in the 2-month aftermath of the FTX crisis, which started around November. And it takes a while for the coin to settle. Now, the really important point I want to make today is that the FTX problem, which seemed like a systemic risk, was actually what you call an idiosyncratic risk, because FTX and Solana were joined at the hip. So when FTX went bust, Serum, had problems, and then there was issues with coins that Alameda Research has, meaning Solana coins that Alameda Research has, and the Solana project itself has had FTX coins, and as you know, those are practically worthless. So that was a idiosyncratic risk, in my opinion. Now, what's going on that's really important is we have what I believe is a systemic risk that's going on. So think of the difference. Idiosyncratic, that's unique risk, and then there's systemic risk. So I think that the systemic risk is the Operation Choke Point 2.0 that I mentioned. So I think Solana, because there's a lot going on with fundamentals of the crypto market in terms of lawsuits, things like that. And because there was too much bullishness early in the year, I think the price of crypto coins, especially altcoins, can continue to go down, but only up to a certain point. So I think that Solana could test its low that was reached around January of this year, maybe early January, and that was about $10. So we were around $14, so we can go down to around 10. So this is why I recommend a DCA be used, dollar cost averaging be used. Remember, this is not financial advice. So my goal of today's presentation was actually just to talk to you about the fundamentals of Solana, but I was forced to talk about that. So let's get started. There's a lot to talk about. So what I recommend in this trending innovations slide presentation is that I'm going to talk fast. So what I want you to do is to pause the video and take a screenshot. What I did for you guys is I put a lot of bullets, a lot of wording, and you can read that on your own. I'm just going to go through it quickly because I've got like 18 slides to talk about. That's a lot of slides. And some of the stuff is pretty complex. So I'm going to be talking about quickly, the background Solana, part 1, part 2, the rating scorecard. Now, this rating scorecard is really going to be focused in my deep dive. So I'm just going to talk about it quickly here. And then third, and the focus of this presentation, are the technology, more importantly, the recent innovations of Solana, the Solana project. And I think of this as the body, mind, spirit. If you look at that triangle, it reminds me at least of the blockchain trilemma. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I think of a project, or even when I'm looking at equities, stocks, I think of them transversely, holistically. So I like to look at a project and then take a step away, and then I like to see how I feel, determine how I feel about the project. because there's always within each factor, there's always a pro and con. Some pros outweigh the cons and vice versa. So what you need to do sometimes, and this is what I do, is look at the whole project and see how I feel days and days later. That's how you know when you like really like something, when you think about it and you feel pretty good about it. That's how I feel about Solana, even though they've had all these problems in the past, and there's a whole problem with the crypto market going on right now. So let's just put our heads down and talk about fundamentals. So here's a quick background. Solana is a monolithic beta stage non-EVM designed L1, layer 1. Third generation, some would say fourth, but I would say third, smart contract protocol, SCP. Developed to enhance network scalability performance through its novel proof of history, which is also proof of stake, technology. I know that's a mouthful. So I'll explain you this information quickly, but remember, this is going to be explained better in the deep dive. So monolithic means that everything's done in the chain. It's not partitioned into different types of modules, and that's a modular chain. So an example of a modular chain would be Harmony and Near. These chains, and Ethereum's moving towards that. So these chains use sharding, also Multiverse X, which used to be called Elrond. These chains, as I said, use sharding, and in terms of Avalanche uses what they call subnets, but it's all the same. Basically, you're divvying up the chain, and Polygon and other layer 2s are also modular, but Solana is monolithic. So it has pros and cons. I'll talk to you about that another time in the deep dive. I just want to focus on some other items that I mentioned. That it's non-EVM, meaning it's not Ethereum virtual machine designed, at least from the get-go. And what else here? And it's smart contract protocol, meaning it's for DeFi. And I think that's enough. I'll leave you to look at the deep dive video for the rest. And as you know, the soul of Solana is Anatoly Yakovenko, who brought in a team of his friends and colleagues to start up this chain. So the original use case, and I mentioned smart contract protocols and DeFi's. So the original use case was to disrupt Wall Street because his chain is so fast. But the new use case seems to be onboarding consumers. It's a very drastically different project than it was originally. And that's what happens when you have a near-death experience, like the FTX scandal. It makes you rethink your whole project. So let me talk a little bit faster. So this is a deep dive, so I'm going to go over a few of these really fast. So I have a rating scorecard in which I rate all of the major and even some of the smaller blockchains. This means layer 1s, layer 0, and layer 2s, and maybe some apps. So what do we got here? Funding. The funding was, had it as a very high rating, excellent, because they were probably the one or two best funded project out there. But then they lost a lot of their coins due to the FTX scandal. This is a side note, but I have no idea. I do not understand why the treasuries of these projects, why do they put their money in tokens? I think they should put their money in gold and maybe Bitcoin and in US dollars, so that when the crypto market declines, they have something left to pay their developers. I just don't understand that. So I think the management team is excellent. The technology is excellent, above average. But as you know, the elephant in the room is that they've been hacked a few times, especially in the early part of 2022. Developers, excellent. Developer growth, and lots of developers, lots of full-time developers. And you can look at Electric Capital for more information on that. The user experience is above average, and that's the UX. How it is to use it on your mobile app. How is it to use the Solana wallet Phantom? Is it easy to use? The use case is average, and that's because the total value lock, which had been declining before the FTX scandal, declined even more. Decentralization, there's been a lot of commotion and controversy about this. I actually think that Solana is decentralized. But as you know, the SEC has pointed out and shows Solana as being a security. But I think the SEC thinks that everything's a security anyway. Tokenomics is average, but it has some good stuff. There's no max supply. That's a very bad thing. But inflation, which is high, is coming down rapidly, and the vesting schedule is complete. And social KPIs are very good, in my opinion. There's lots of Twitter follows, for example. The Solana DeFi ecosystem, as you know, as I mentioned to you earlier, declined rapidly, and you could see here in the purple that TVL in price in terms of Solana and even in US dollars declined rapidly. Okay, I'm going to talk about these technologies and innovations. The validated client, about the Ethereum virtual machine, compressed NFTs, and artificial intelligence. So you can pause this video and print this out and read this on your own. Let's talk about the first one. Actually, this is probably the most important or second most important thing that's going on with Solana. Especially in terms of back end and technology, this is the number one important thing. In terms of front end, I would say compressed NFTs. So let's talk about what I'm going to read to you here. This is a validated client software, and in 2024, Jump Crypto's Fire Dancer client software will be introduced. So it's going to improve robustness, provide concurrent transaction processing, and because of that, it's going to improve performance and reliability and decentralization. So remember all those outages that occurred in 2022, they forced the Solana team to focus more on security, and this is how they're going about it. So remember, this is very important, and remember that Solana will be the only other blockchain other than Ethereum to have two validated client softwares. Actually, they have a small one. This would actually be the third because they have a small client software, but let's just call it two. And these are some of the advantages that you can get from this new validated client software. And this is put out by Messari, did a great job. And you can read this on your own. I'm just going to focus on one or two things. The first one is, maybe I should put my mouse here, above, not the red arrow, just above it, it's a Solana current. You can see 3,500 current average TPS. Of course, that depends on whether that's voting TPS or non-voting. So if it's voting TPS, it's going to be faster than non-voting. Just be aware of that. Now let's go to the red arrow. So Solana with Fire Dancer is going to be 0.6 to 1.2 max theoretical TPS. So that is huge. That's very fast. 85 to 180,000 max theoretical TPS excluding voting transactions. So transactions per second is going to be extremely high. And then if you go to the next few rows, you've got Twitter, Visa, and NASDAQ, and you could see that we're approaching very high throughput where you start to compete with Visa or NASDAQ. And remember, if you're competing with NASDAQ, that means you can trade. And this is just some theoretical thing that Messari did. They call it the blue ocean. And if you read from left to right, what they're saying is, I'm just going to cut to the chase. What they're saying is, from now, the current market in red, to the market, the blue ocean market in blue, there's unexplored territory. What Messari is trying to say is all these advantages of redundancy, robustness, very high TPS, low latency, low finality, so near instant finality. There's going to be unknown apps in the future. And you saw this in Web 2, right? Like No one envisioned ride-sharing companies like Lyft and Uber, right? This came out after Web 1 and even Web 2 came out, right? Uber didn't come out immediately, right, when mobile apps came out. It took time. And think about Google Maps. It took time for these things to happen. Just on a side note, Solana itself has a project on it, a dApp on it called Hive Mapper, which is a decentralized mapping app. So that's pretty cool. So next slide. EVM compatibility. As I mentioned to you, EVM means Ethereum virtual machine. So as you know, Solana has traditionally been non-EVM compatible. So you cannot easily and cheaply port Ethereum's apps. You can't copy and paste, basically. I'm not sure if it's that simple. I'm not a programmer, but some people make it sound like that. You could just copy and paste. But the point is, you couldn't do that with Solana. So going forward, Neon EVM is going to allow that. And this is going to be a process that takes some time to do, and you could read the comments on your own. So this is what gets me excited. It's probably not going to do much for the market in terms of picking up market share against Apple and iPhone, but I think the Saga phone is really cool. Again, you could pause this and print this out. I'm just going to mention one or two things that come up to me, that stick out to me as I'm trying to speak to you really fast. First of all, in the beginning of May, Solana announced that you could make these orders for this Solana Saga phone. It's not the first decentralized phone, but I think it's going to be one of the bigger ones. And I'm going to show you the new orders in the next few slides. So odds are it won't be, like I said, I think it's going to be successful against some other decentralized smartphones, but it's not going to be successful against Android, let's face it, and Apple's iPhone. Those are like gorillas. But it's okay. This is a learning process. Solana's going to be learning. So I want to focus here on two key features. They have what's called the mobile stack, which integrates crypto usefulness. Think about going to the store and doing payments with your phone. But instead you're going to be using your crypto wallet. And then you have something called the seed vault, which stores your private keys. Now this is going to sound like an oxymoron, but the seed vault segregates the wallet from your phone. So they're trying to make a cold wallet in a wireless and Bluetooth, cellular and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, I guess, enabled phone. So it's kind of an oxymoron because you think of a cold wallet as not being connected, but somehow they have this technology that allows you to separate that seed vault and the private keys from being hacked by outsiders using the wireless network. And totally joke that there's going to be 16 apps. There's already maybe 24 apps as I speak. But when he first introduced this, he had 16 apps just like the iPhone. So he's trying to make that analogy that this is like the iPhone moment for Solana. So here I mentioned I would show you the orders. So orders are going pretty quickly. They're going up in steps. I don't know why that's doing that. Maybe that's from like orders for like retail orders in stores. But we're approaching 10,000. And I heard somewhere that he would feel like it would be successful if he could hit 13,000. So, I mean, this phone was just introduced in May, and we're already near 10,000. I'm sure by September we're going to be at, or by the end of the year we should be at 15,000. Who knows, maybe 20. So I think we're doing pretty well for like a new unheard of phone. So this is just showing you some phones I used to look at. So it was a Saga phone ahead of its time. So if you look at the bottom left, that was the Nokia communicator. It was way ahead of its time, even before the iPhone, but no one adopted it. And then at the top center, that's the Palm Pilot / handspring, what did they call it? PDA, personal device, right? Remember that? And that was really popular, and then it just died. And on the lower right, you can see the HTC Exodus, and that is a crypto phone, a decentralized phone, and it's somewhat popular. So I just wanted to show you that you need perspective. This phone may die on the vine. We don't know. But at least Solana is executing. They're moving forward. And this is what excites me the most other than the validated client, and that's the NFT compression technology. This, in my opinion, it was going to allow Solana to move from DeFi to the consumer market, and this is basically NFTs. And so let me just read this to you quickly, but you can, pause the video. Compressed NFTs, which are co-developed by Metaplex, by the way, they allow Solana to store the data in a Merkle tree. Just think of a digital fingerprint. I'm not going to explain that to you, but they're basically storing data online and off-chain. So that's why it makes it more use less data and more compressed. So who cares about this? Well, this method allows for huge scaling and opens new use cases. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but the use cases are ginormous, like gaming, events, Ticketmaster type stuff, the metaverse, selling skins, Fidgetal, digital, supply chains, identity, personal records. It goes on and on. So look at the cost comparison. They're unbelievable. So look at the bottom where it says 1 million NFTs. And Solana today would cost you $253,680. But with compression technology, it would only cost you $113. Now compare that to Ethereum, $33 million. Polygon, $32,000. We're talking about huge declines, like revolutionary declines in pricing. And this, my friends, is that iPhone moment. It may not be the Saga phone, it's this. So Helium is moving to Solana, and believe it or not, this is actually related to what I just talked to you about. So on April 2023, Helium moved from its native blockchain, which was a lot for them to do. They weren't able to concentrate on their business model because they were so focused on their project, on their chain. So now they're going to be moving to Solana's project and not have to worry about all that stuff. So Solana's technology is very suited for what's called DPIN. That's an acronym, because we love acronyms here, Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. So they allow for wireless storage and energy networks. And this is only what I'm telling you about. The list goes on and on. Any infrastructure market. So Helium provides peer-to-peer hotspots to help you with IoT, there's another acronym, Internet of Things, and mobile networks. And the project was said to be motivated by Solana's reliability. I'm not sure about that, but that's what they said, because Solana's known for having blackouts, right? But now going forward, I don't think they will because of the validated client software. So they're also excited about having access to Solana's developers, because remember, Helium had its own project. It's not going to be like that anymore. And so the Helium had its own developers too, with its own language. But so they also said they were excited about Solana's speed, which of course is very important for networks. And most importantly, they were very excited about Solana's compression technology, which I just spoke to you about, which is going to lower Helium's network cost. Render is another project I'm really excited about. Render, which is co-owned and advised by the guy behind Beeple, the guy that calls himself Beeple, that sold his artwork for what? $62 million on Christie's? It was something like that. So he uses Render, and lots of creators use Render. So it's basically rendering, like it says, rendering software for doing artwork, digital artwork, but it's decentralized. Remember, anything that's centralized can be decentralized. And as you know, Rendering is partnering with Metaplex, because Metaplex is behind compressed NFTs. So again, the speed is going to allow for real-time rendering and at a low cost because of the compression technology I already talked to you about. And lastly, but not least, is artificial intelligence, AI. Solana is going to be the first company to incorporate a ChatGPT plugin. Now, I know this sounds very big and fancy, and this is what's pushing up equities now, right? Like Alphabet, Microsoft with its investment and partnership with OpenAI. AI is pushing up stocks like NVIDIA. It goes on and on. But in terms of crypto and Solana, I actually think this is not a big deal. The most important factor in innovation, in my opinion, I believe, is crypto NFTs tied with the new Validator client. So I'm not going to talk to you too much about this. So in conclusion, if the old Facebook could move fast and break things, I think a reborn Solana could certainly eat glass. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation and you're not obsessed like many of us are on prices and stock price and all that. Just focus on the fundamentals because that's what developers are doing. And then the price will come later.